Alright, it's the HAWK back with the latest 2 episodes of TNA. I'm here to get you up to date. Yeah, I know the first one is late, but I was busy taking your girl out on a date. Episode 1 starts out with a world title match. The tail of the tape proudly proclaims that Jake Something hasn't lost a singles match since September. Do you know how many singles matches he's had since September? 4, and 2 of these were on pre-shows. That was desperate, but when you're up against a man like Joe Hendry, I guess all your achievements feel worthless. Jake Something should have a slight power edge, but instead it's him who's getting slammed and smashed around the ring by Hendry. Eventually, Something starts managing to land some short-arm clotheslines and a shut up or I'll smack you one punch. Hendry makes a comeback of a sack of shit whilst his biggest fan fills his knickers with happiness. Something stops the standing ovation and spears him in the corner. He does a Batista taunt to fire himself up, but he can't manage to clothesline Hendry out of the ring and the champion turns it around on him. Hendry gives him a Scott Hall special back into the ring and the standing ovation ends it. It was fine. Jake Something hasn't really been built up as a championship level competitor, so Hendry ended in this quick fashion makes sense. Ryan Nemeth storms out screaming that his brother thinks he's a fraud. Something attacks Hendry as Santino Marella scrambles into the ring along with Dolph Ziggler. He starts throwing super kicks with one catching Santino by mistake. Everybody screams and cries because former wrestler Santino Marella has been super kicked once. What a bunch of pussies. In the back, Dolph Ziggler apologises. Santino says we can't have this sort of behaviour and he suspends him for 4 weeks. Man, that might be one of the harshest punishments in wrestling history. Ryan promises to hold down the fort for his brother. A tag match between the Elegance team and the King Bees. Shouldn't they be Queen Bees? Well, the Hawk hasn't actually inspected down there yet, so I don't know for sure, but it's sure nice to see some new faces on the show. The Elegance brand dominate when the smaller girl's in. Ash hits a glam slam, but too much posturing almost costs them when the bigger girl gets the tag. Actually, pretty fun and has some nice power moves. I didn't even have a problem with her hitting the Samoan drop. But it all goes wrong when they attempt a wacky double team as the big girl is sent from the ring and the smaller one falls on her nutsack. Or her cave? The Hawk hasn't decided yet, and then Heather kills her with the Spanish Fly. It's over. Fun squash match, they also give them a makeover. Danny Luna and Jody Fret run them off because there are no other female tag teams in this company. Now we get a recap on how Moose has become a jobber. That leads to a backstage segment with the Bradford boys. Matt and Jeff thank him for all his help and said he reminds him of them. Matt has found a new inspiration thanks to Leon Slater. Slater says he discovered TNA thanks to the Hardy Boys. So many people missed out on the real TNA legends, the gifted cab drivers. Now that's inspiration right there. They inspired the Hawk to slick back his hair, be an Adonis pigeon but always be miserable. The ass kissing eventually ends as I puke all over myself. Mustafa Ali introduces his new faction. The Good Hands have been renamed the Great Hands and Tasha Steelz, she's still Tasha Steelz. He proclaims that he is the number 1 contender for the world title. For some reason, Tommy Dreamer is here. He says Ali must fight with Santana. Nothing wrong with that segment, it's giving wrestlers something to do and I think Tasha needed this more than anybody. Out next, it's Frankie, the future Kazarian. He's going to face the mole, Sami Callihan. But no, he's jumped on the ramp by Mance Warner. He briefly chokes him and then he leaves. Sami stumbles to the ring looking like a complete state. Come on, Sami, you've been through some hardcore battles in your career. You were only choked for a second. Get a grip. He makes it into the ring and forces the ref to ring the bell. Nice to see the ref wasn't a dick here. Sami almost beats Kaz straight away with a stunner. Ass up, ass down. But no, Warner returns to distract Sami. Kaz puts on the chicken wing and it's over right away. Wow, when did Sami turn into such a loser? This man is used to kicking out of a pile driver through glass tables, but somehow on this night he couldn't survive being choked for 1 second and put in a chicken wing for 5 seconds. Must be all the extra lard. He screams into the microphone calling Mance Warner a son of a bitch and they brawl for about 2 seconds before security geeks break it up. Must have been in a hurry tonight. In the back, Josh Alexander is happy as he's facing Eric Young. He can't wait to have his last TNA match so that he can leave. Elsewhere, for some reason, Fandango meets with Leon Slater. He tells Leon that the Hardys are just using him to try and stay relevant. Leon doesn't agree and he doesn't like being called a kid either. Security are very busy tonight. The next match is Zia Brookside. Why is she dressed the same as the Elegance team? And she's taken on NXT's Cora Jade, who has horrible, unfitting, screaming music. It's like I know she's a rock chick, but it still doesn't fit her. Wrestling songs are 90% terrible nowadays. Even TNA and the Asylum era had some more memorable tracks. I've been watching this show for about 2 months now without stopping, and other than Joe Hendry's song, I literally don't know a single song because they're all complete trash. They play with each other for a bit before Zia Brookside hits a weak head scissors and a weak monkey flip. Jade dumps in her thong with fear and bails from the ring. She ends up faking an injury and playing possum to get back on top. She grabs a 2 off an elbow to the back and another 2 off a double stomp. Jade is very angry tonight. You would be too if you're forced to deal with the mould in the TNA locker room. Brookside comes back with some clotheslines and another head scissors. She does a strut which gets zero reaction from the crowd into double knees and a Russian leg sweep for a 2. They have a series of decent reversals for a while until Jade hits a knee to the noggin and a double arm DDT for the 3. Not sure what the point in this match was. Tessa Blanchard is still being antisocial. She talks trash to Santino's sister until he walks up to protect her. Apparently he's annoyed that Tessa keeps pulling out of matches. What matches did she pull out of? It's news to me. She just said she didn't want to be in the Battle Royal last week for the number 1 contendership, but that sounded optional to me. He screams that she must have a match next week or face the consequences. Just chin him, Tessa. He's really not that tough. If Dolph's boot can do that much damage, think what your chin could do. Yippee, I really wanted an interview with the Rascals. Why is my man swaying like a tree whilst he talks? Miguel calls Lee a bitch and asks him to come out. Wesley brings Tyson Reeks with him. They're about to beat the Rascals up when Tyson Reeks points out that the Rascals don't have a championship, so it's all a waste of time. I agree with him. Instead, he knows something that's near and dear to their hearts. My first thought was, yeah, 420, but no, instead they want to take their treehouse. A treehouse. If things couldn't get worse, underwhelming Ace Austin appears and we get a big 6-man brawl. It doesn't go well for the Rascals, who are smacked in the nutsack, and Wesley hits Austin with a wacky, flippy, floppy, but not flappy because that's the Hawk kick, and it ends. First Class look for females on their phones. Apparently they're going through a dry spell. They said they'll be getting an upgrade soon. Possibly a female manager, maybe? Didn't he used to have one when he first joined TNA, or was the Hawk imagining that? More of these guys on the show, please, TNA. Up next, possibly one of the most random knockouts title matches of all time. Savannah Evans is somehow the number 1 contender. She screams and licks her teeth. The champion is still Masha Slamovich. Savannah dominates her quickly and choke bombs her on the ring apron. Masha is slammed on the outside. Masha comes back in the ring with a strike combination, but she's shut down quickly and hit with a big spinning side slam. Tessa's chin is shown watching backstage as usual. Evans with a nice heel across the ring now. Slamovich manages to come back by sending her into the buckles and hitting a middle rope dropkick and a rolling heel kick, shades of Big Vis. Someone in the crowd is loudly doing Eli Drake's dummy yeah chants. Evans nails a big boot and an ass drop for a 2. We move on to a striking battle which Masha wins, but she doesn't really hurt Evans, who gives her a side slam of sorts for a 2. Slamovich fights off a full Nelson slam and punts and knees her in the head. She wins shortly after with a pulling pile driver. Enjoyed that, a really physical encounter, and Evans was, dare I say it, better than I thought. She's just lacking in charisma and the fans don't have a reason to care about her right now, but this was a decent showcase. Just the main event left, which will see Eric Young take on Josh Alexander. This was the final TNA match which Josh asked for. They tried to treat this match as a big deal, but it never really pans out that way because it's lacking in action. Just skip most of it until the last few minutes. Josh hits a Green Bay plunge and a diving knee to the head. Eric still has energy though and he fights off the ankle lock. Eric connects with a diving elbow drop for a 2. Josh has his head knocked off. Tell me, why does Josh have such a veiny head? Despite his head, he manages to hit Eric with a Styles Clash for a 2. Eric teases a top rope pile driver but can't do it and Josh rolls him into an ankle lock. EY fights that off, so Josh does a sharpshooter instead. The Northern Armory dorks cause a distraction to break that up, but Josh can't be stopped and once again he puts on the ankle lock. The Northern Armory won't go away. One of them slides Eric his mask, which he smacks Josh out with and hits the pile driver for the 3. Apparently, Josh has to go away now. No way near as good as you would expect from these two guys, and not a very hard-hit way to end the show. The wrestling on the show was mostly done okay across the board here, but the show felt lazy and lacking in effort. There's no good storylines right now, so let's check out show 2 from 4 days ago. And guess what? This one's live. Man, I can't believe a month has gone by already since the last one. Joe Hendry is in the ring straight away to do another concert. Joe doesn't really have an obvious contender lined up for his belt, so instead he sings about beating up The Miz and Sheamus. He says he would have won the Royal Rumble if it weren't for Roman Reigns, and he'll defend his title every week. He's interrupted by the Colognes. No! I've been watching them on NWA Power. They're so boring that they can only be described as dour. Last week, they struggled to beat up a little person in a match. So I'm not taking these too seriously. Epico goes on and on about what serious wrestlers they are. The crowd are loudly chanting "Where's Carlito?", which keeps throwing off his promo. The clones get annoyed and head to the ring to snap Hendry's neck. The lights go out and Elias makes his TNA debut. I'm instantly getting the same feeling as a month ago. This show is just so much better with all the surprises and a crowd which are actually awake. But sadly, the rest of the month when it's not live sucks Sonny Siaki's ass. Elias is now going as Elijah, which is a simple exchange. Because Hendry and Elijah both have a singing gimmick, they're going to team up tonight against the Colognes. The crowd are instantly loving him and they're embracing his name change, so 2 beaks up for that. Santina Marella storms out to predictably address a match between the 4. The promo ends with Elijah and Hendry singing that they'll raise some hell tonight. In the back, the boy from Bradford has an interview. He's facing Fandango in a no DQ match. He cuts a Rasta promo, which is pretty decent, saying he's going to win tonight. Is it just me or has the TNA merchandise adverts really increased? I bet WWE had some sort of hand in that. The clones are in the back telling us that TNA really need them. They really don't. Here comes Tyson Reeks. That is one of the lamest entrances I've ever seen. I hate the Rascals too, but this might be the match for me because the NXT guys seem to be chucking them around the ring like they're nothing, and they are. Really like this big guy spinning uppercut move. Trey Miguel fills his nappy of fear after a side slam. He manages some kicks and tags out. Zachary hits a double missile dropkick and then he almost wins with a running shooting star. Tyson Reeks should have the match won with a nice double team, but it's not finished yet. Wentz hits a corkscrew dive out the ring to take out one of the Reeks brothers. Ace Austin stops Wesley from cheating, which allows Miguel to hit a diving double knee, and Wentz hits a swanton bomb to finish off Tyson Reeks.
Dude, I was watching TNA Live the other day, man, and this dude, the little rascal, he stole my swanton bomb finishing maneuver, man, and he pinned him. Man, I'm going back to North Carolina, and I'm going to tell my stoner friend Shannon all about you, the little rascal, man.
Not bad, and hopefully that's the end of this feud now, because I see no reason for it to continue. No, Wesley grabs a mic and challenges them to a 6-man tag at the pay-per-view. I don't even know why Tyson Reeks wants to fight the Rascals. How about actually having something happen in a segment? First Class make their way out of a bunch of people. AJ Francis says this is something called the First Class Penthouse. They introduce the guests, some girl called Gabby who does a wrestling podcast, someone else called Valentina, and a car racing girl called Saralina. Isn't that a cream for an STD or something? One of the guys is a music producer. The crowd chant, "Who are you?" They play some sort of TikTok video. I have no idea what's going on. They keep only playing like 2 seconds of the video. A man called Moo is a rapper. Insert cow joke. Mick Foley's daughter is here, why? And also Frank somebody. AJ is upset that they aren't getting a world tag title shot and says TNA have given him this talk show to stop them from complaining. He talks about his love for Roddy Piper and his hate for the Hulkster. Careful AJ, you're going to become a face at this rate. He claims he invented Joe Hendry's gimmick and he's ranting and raving for ages and I have no idea what he's even talking about. At this point they've introduced about 50 people. AJ Francis pretends that he's got a guest coming on still and it's going to be AJ Styles, but no, instead it's AJ Francis. He stumbles over his words and the crowd are all over him. It ends. I have no idea what to think about that one. He had about 10 D-list celebrities for no reason at all. I love First Class, but I'm not sure that segment hit like it was supposed to. You know the Hawk though, I'm always going to appreciate effort, which this show has precious little of. Rosemary is out next. She takes on Laying Lee. Fun match, but short. Lee seems to be the master of the strike, and she beats Rosemary with a wacky kick in short time. Why is Rosemary always a jobber in this company? At least she gets some small measure of revenge when she sprays mist. In the back, the mole Sami Callihan is looking for Mance Warner as usual. He jumps Sami in a room and it cuts to an advert break. They were never seen again. Back from the break and a medic is attending to Lee, whose eyes are all burnt out from the mist. Tessa Blanchard happily walks up and says it's time for her physical. The doctor refused to give her one. She calls Lee an undercard dork who isn't worth his attention right now. The doctor looks like Mike Mondo on acid. Eric Young and the Northern Armory are out next. He cuts a boring promo begging Steve Macklin to join the Northern Armory. Not sure why they want these 2 other guys. One of them looks like a starved version of Eric Young and the other looks like Wheeler Yuta on crack. Then there's an AA meeting which for some reason Santana is attending. Mustafa Ali barges in and sits next to him. The extras here actually all look like addicts, so I wonder if they are. Santana doesn't look very happy about Ali joining his meeting. I didn't realise Santana was in recovery though. What drugs was he doing in AEW of Tony Khan? Highlights from NXT of Moose meeting Oba Femi. Don't sweat him, Oba Femi, he hasn't won a match in ages. He will also be defending his belt against Lexus King, which he'll probably lose. Now Fandango will face Leon Slater, the boy from Bradford, in a no DQ match. No sign of the rest of the Slapnut system, which isn't a bad thing, it's a good thing. After dominating for a while, Slater hits a big dive over the ring pole. Fandango shuts him up with a suplex slam into a chair. Fandango starts using a cane until the boy hits a Bradford boot and it's his time to use the stick. He even hits a pretty nice diving stick shot. It ends not long after with a crazy moment when Leon Slater hits a Swanton 450 from the top to the outside, putting Fandango through a table. But hold your hawks, it's not actually a 3 because the Slapnut system appear and they slam Slater through another table. Now it's the 3. Predictably, the Hardys stop a post-match attack and Oba Femi also comes to their rescue. Let the Hawk ask you all a question, because the TNA crowd are clearly very aware of who Oba Femi is. So my question is, how do you have time to watch all this wrestling? Oba Femi is the new Monty Brown or something. The system all yell and scream at each other backstage. They're annoyed at Santino for letting Oba Femi into the building. He makes a 6-man tag for next week. That's all that ever happens on this show. 6 people are involved in something, so now they will fight. Boring. Up next, Tessa Blanchard and her chin will compete in a TNA for the first time in 4 years. This crowd is clearly still hating on her. Wait, she isn't dressed to wrestle. She says the doctor couldn't be bothered to clear her to wrestle. The crowd chant shut the fuck up. They try to tell Tessa to go out the door. She fires back at them by saying that they all jerk off to her on social media. Oh no, here we go. The crowd start chanting she's a racist. Santino cuts it off before it gets nasty. He calls her unprofessional for getting out of her match again. If she doesn't wrestle next week, she's gonna be fired. Randomly, Masha Slamovich comes out and says she wants to face Tessa. The crowd chant, please don't wrestle. Masha takes over the match that Tessa was supposed to have. I'm not even really sure if it's Tessa's fault she couldn't wrestle. The doctor was busy and refused to deal with her. Masha will face Mylon Moore. Within seconds, Masha hits her with a spinning back fist and pins her after a pile driver. Cora Jade jumps her from behind and Blanchard finds this hilarious. She has a stare down with Tessa on the ramp. Nothing happens. Santino makes an announcement that Cora Jade will challenge for the Knockouts title at the pay-per-view. The Elegance team also asked for a tag team rematch. Yeah, because there's no other female tag teams in this company. Get rid of the belt, TNA, is pointless. Why does Danny Luna never get to talk? Santino says if Spitfire win again, then the Elegance team will have to be their property. Forever. Kidding, it's just for one night. What would you do if you owned one of these girls for one night? The Hawk would go berserk. I'd use one of them as a wall, and just like my wall, I'd smack them square in the gut whenever I felt like it. Amongst other things. Violence against walls is fine, but not against women. Dolph Ziggler's brother is here now. His promos are extremely irritating as he drags out every word that he says. This guy's like the modern day X-Pac. He says his brother will return on the next pay-per-view, and the crowd comically don't even react. The promo ends straight away.
My big brother returns to TNA Wrestling at Sacrifice!
That was so weird and really poorly done. It would have been better if they hadn't bothered doing it. The main event is the Colons taking on Elijah and Joe Hendry. As expected, it's not much of a main event. If anything, Elijah overshadows Hendry here. This is getting to become a slight issue. I'm not going to call it yet, but how are the squad feeling about Joe Hendry's matches? Elijah gets the win with a tombstone piledriver to end the show. It was much better than the last show, although it was still a bit hit and miss. It was nice to see some new faces, but I'm not sure how much longer I can take the lack of effort with storylines. No one could accuse me of not giving this show a try at this point, but every single storyline is basically, you have a belt, so I want to fight you. Where's the creativity? The only creativity seems to be of Santana and Ali, and that's probably why it's the only storyline I'm paying any attention to. Has the art of storytelling been lost in wrestling? This is a problem across the whole industry. People are only ever in feuds because they have a belt or they lost a match and attack them afterwards. Like, here's this example of a storyline I made up in 10 seconds. Jake something gets Ariana Grace pregnant, but it's revealed he's doing this to gain power and opportunities within TNA. But Santino and Vladimir Kozlov see through his actions, and Kozlov also has a crush on her, but she likes bad boy Jake something. There, a perfect mid-card feud. Who wouldn't want to see that? And eventually something could embrace being a dad, and Kozlov could want to help him out too. But eventually it turns out that she made up the pregnancy to try and baby trap him into a relationship. So then you could have a tag team run with those two men whilst she turns heel and hangs out with First Class in a club or something going for a hoe phase. And Santino could go either way. Think of the funny vignettes of Santino trying to track her down in a nightclub. It's a completely realistic storyline which translates in wrestling. Wouldn't you much rather see that than a person A will fight person B because person B has a title? But I guess that's too much like entertainment. If you don't agree with that, you're a layman.